Howdy, howdy, folks. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's Lou. Good to be with you again, Lee. We're going to have to, first and foremost, I think the most important stuff as we talk about winter weather, we got to get people in the comments coming up with a good, show name for when you and I are together.
Yes.
Lee, Lou, some sort of play on the.
There's just one letter difference,
right?
So
there's got to be something out there. Keep it, PG, relatively speaking. But but let's come up with something in the comments, please. Lee and Lou, we're gonna be doing this a lot. We get to hang out. I'm blessed to get to hang out with Lee and pick her brain about the cold again. We did this 2 weeks ago, looking ahead to that winter system that went through Atlanta and South Carolina, and we were showing early, like the 10 to 14 day out models were showing those winter weather signals in the deep south, meaning like southeast Georgia even. And my goodness, if it's not deja vu all over again.
And that's why I'm glad you mentioned that, because again, while it is deja vu all over again, models are showing that we could maybe have a little bit of winter weather here. Remember how last time it didn't pan out. So again, we are talking about this because you are talking about this. 100%. We're getting questions about it. We're seeing it on social media, but we're not saying it's going to happen. We are actually here to break down the likelihood of it happening or not happening.
Right. So this far out, we're talking, as we look at the graphic here, the temperature anomalies we are anticipating for the next 10 days or so out. We're at the 15th, so we're talking 9 days, so 20th to 24th. Those dates are important for our winter weather and the storm system that's getting geared up out of the Gulf of Mexico. Another low out of the Gulf, a little clipper system out of the Gulf of Mexico, similar to the system that came out that impacted Atlanta, central Georgia, and then the Midlands of South Carolina. Showing you this from the Climate Prediction Center, showing we still anticipate, we've had cool weather all this month, this winter, which kind of foreshadowing what we'll talk about at the end of this broadcast, but we've got the cold weather going to be in place. Kind of looking at our atmospheric thickness, the geopotential heights. Really what it does is shows where the thickest parts of the atmosphere are, where the coldest air and the upper layers of our atmosphere are. And then you hear the term polar vortex used, you hear that Arctic blast used. And as we look into this weekend, right? So this is before even the winter weather. We've got that front to deal with, the Saturday night rain into Sunday morning. And behind that, some frigid temperatures will be in our nation's midsection, kind of reinforcing cold air coming in. And we'll then see that cold enough air in the deep south. How far deep does it go for some wintry precip as we get into the middle of next week? And models are different on this, Lee, as far as timing, strength, moisture, temperature, all of the above. What we do with modeling this far out, what we can do, while we can't pinpoint location, we can't even pinpoint the wintry precip or precip type at all, but we can talk about patterns. And there is a pattern here that's being picked up with that low in the Gulf and cold temperatures in place.
And as we talked about, we need all the ingredients to come together perfectly. So we need the moisture in our atmosphere, but we need it to be with freezing temperatures, cold air over us. The timing of that over a place like the First Coast, it's very rare, but it's not impossible.
Right.
So let's break down these models. Of course, like last time when Lou and I did this, we showed you the GFS model and then we showed you the European model. So this is the GFS, also known as the American model. There's that clipper system coming out of the Gulf. There's the moisture that we need. Will it line up with the cold air? Lou, $1 million question.
And right now, this system, or I should say this model run, and GFS, we can go long range, and we get more frequent updates than what we're seeing with the Euro, and it has slowed down a bit. So you may wonder, well, why are we talking about this? Because it's been on social media. We're seeing the social media meteorologists put worst case scenario models out there showing some pretty interesting wintry precip amounts out there. This model backed off a bit, still showing what the pink would be a sleet or an ice. White is the snow generally when it comes to the computer modeling as it interpolates kind of the precip type, and it does that through an algorithm that would essentially take your thickness of your atmosphere, the temperature within that atmosphere, where the rain would potentially melt or refreeze, or where it would stay frozen the whole way down. And that line looks to be through mid-Georgia. Now, we went way out. We went 10 days out, and that's where things get a little bonkers. and Lee, where this would show what you're probably going to start seeing other online and social media weather enthusiasts sharing that image, which is some wintry precip making its way into the deep south into southeast Georgia.
Some snow, maybe some flurries that reach portions of the first coast. That's what this one model wants to show. But again, it is 10 days out.
Yep.
But what this system, you can see this generally across places north of here,
Yep.
Georgia, Alabama, but when these systems move through, you have the cold air wrapping in behind that system, but there's still some moisture lingering behind it, just tiny little showers that then get mixed in with that cold air, and that's when you actually get, it's more likely to see some winter precip across portions of the deep south, and so that's what that model is trying to show there. But we also have the European model, and this one is interesting too. In the same way that the GFS has been flipping back and forth saying, yes, maybe the possibility of a little bit of winter weather, and then no, not a chance at all. This one has also been going back and forth. Yesterday, Lou, you and I were looking at it around this time, and it said absolutely not.
Yep.
But here we are today, something a little bit different coming in.
A little bit different, a little bit faster. So remember what we were seeing with the GFS. That would we're talking Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're going 7 to 10 days, 8 to 10, and 11 days out. So really on the edges of possibilities when it comes to accuracy with modeling. But this has, a little bit earlier, a little bit quicker system with...
Look at that.
Yeah, some wintry precip in the form of perhaps sleet and ice. So, and that would include Ware, Pierce, Brantley counties, even Western Glen is shaded in the pink there, which would mean, as we look to midweek, will the air be cold enough? Will the precip be right in time to see a little bit of ice in those far northern stretches of our first coast and inland southeast Georgia?
I'm going to bring up one of those social media posts.
We got okay, please. And that, my friend, is the MVP.
Yes.
The voice you just heard on the ones and twos. That is
Think about that.
Andy. All right. So, Florida Tropics, no free ads on the stream, but there's their, I keep saying Twitter, it's X now. 12Z GFS bringing the winter goods today. Get snow as far south as Ocala next week. Yo.
Are you trying to set us up here, Andy? I don't want to diss anyone.
No.
I get why, I like that we have other weather nerds out there who want to look at all these
100%.
models, but we would never take a model snapshot and post it and saying this is going to happen or even really could happen, because this is why we're doing this stream now, because these social media posts are floating out there. People are banking on snow. I hear it at my hair salon. Oh, is it true we're going to get
Right.
snow next week? And then I have to be the bearer of bad news and be like, those odds are very small. So we're just going through and explaining.
Bring it back up. Will you bring it back up for us?
Yeah.
If you can. And here's the deal.
It's fun to think about.
And all this individual's doing, for better or for worse, this person isn't saying it is going to do anything. They're just saying this particular essential math equation spit out the potential 10 days out of seeing snow in Ocala. That's all he's saying. He's saying this picture shows something, and it does.
Yeah,
It
the model
certainly does.
did say that.
But again, the reliability is close to zero. When you're this far out, it picks up patterns this far out. Big global patterns because the bigger bite is a little bit easier to take, in this case, with the modeling. Now, the smaller micro, the minutia, you got to get closer out. You're talking, really for winter weather, especially in the south, you need 3 days, because we're talking about a low that could move 20, 30, 50 miles to the north or to the south would
Right.
make all the difference in whether Columbia, South Carolina gets 3 inches of snow or they get sleet. And sleet is kind of the enemy of all those snow forecasts. And Lord knows I worked in Columbia for a while, and it's like it's like the line in the deep south where you'd forecast 3 inches and just like go to bed praying. It's like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Please. And then it turns out it's sleet the next day. And that happens. It's just the nature of this. It's just such a fine line in the South. And as I've alluded to in previous discussions here online, to get it here, to get it in Ocala, for heaven's sakes, but to get it here You gotta roll Yahtzee, all sixes, first roll. All the ingredients have to be right there. They have to bounce right there and go. Now, looking into Saturday, remember what the GFS showed, a wraparound with cold air with potential for wintry precip Saturday, and GFS just shows rain. So that's the divergence that's happening there with our computer models. I think the thesis to this essay, or at least the conclusion to this portion of our broadcast with this essay, is we're aware, we are watching. We got the best team in the business with Lee, Ross, Robert, and Tim. I mean, you don't get any better than that. Watching carefully all the time, and we will update as we need to. But the pattern would suggest cold air coming for Wednesday. Now, that leads us to the next topic. Lee, which is an article that we wrote for firstcoastnews.com about, has this January really been that cold? Like, it just, anecdotally, you mentioned going to the salon, I was going to say barbershop, going to the salon, everybody's talking about certain topics. Right. I have had people, photographers here at this station who are working outside all the time, friends mention to me, this winter just feels, anecdotally now, without the data in front of them, this winter feels colder. And one person who we work with, Joe Massa, brought up to me, at least we usually, even though it'll be cold for a few days, we usually will get a 70-degree day or 2 or 3 mixed in to kind of thaw out. You get shorts back on before it gets cold. We haven't had that. So I kind of lead us off with what your January averages are, where we should be for the time of year, ranging from mid to low 60s for normal high temperatures, and the low to mid 40s for normal low temperatures when you wake up in the morning. So, to answer some of our questions, I don't think, if you're saying to yourself, yeah, it does seem like it's been a little colder in January, you're not crazy. We've noted it has been a cold start to January in Jax. We're 2 weeks in. We're going to use the first 14 days of data. I know we're at the 15th now, but we're just going to round to 2 weeks. We've got 2 weeks of data in for the year 2025 so far. Your average temperature, when you're taking lows, highs, all the temperatures together, comes out to a 46.9.
Burr.
7th coldest that we've got with record keeping. That's chilly. And your average high temperatures have been below 60 degrees. Average highs, that's 15th coldest. Remember what we said, normal is ranging from 64 to about 66. So all month long, even our warmest temperatures have been below normal. And has it been freezing? It has been freezing, quite literally. So 32 degrees, I think we can say, is objectively cold. It's physically cold. We're talking about science with it. 32 degrees is the freeze point or below. So far this winter, so we are going to go back to December here, we've had 13 days at freezing or below. 13 days this winter. We usually average 14 freezes. That's our seasonal average in a given winter. We've still got to get through the rest of January, which we already talked about next week. We're going to have potential for a couple freezes. And then the rest of February, where we can certainly see freezes. And generally, we're done with them by March. Certainly St. Patrick's Day, we have seen it in the past. But talking about seasonal, that's really chilly. And frankly, it could have the potential to be the most. If we get up to 15, would be the most since 2010, 2011 winter, when we had 30 freeze days. That's a lot of freeze days. I don't know if we're going to get there. We've certainly had colder winters. We haven't broken any records, Lee, so we're not talking about record-breaking cold, but just a persistent below average.
I really hope we don't reach that 30 degree,
yeah,
but
no kidding.
We're close to halfway there already. Yeah. And as you said, we got the rest of January and all of February to go.
Yep.
So, all right, this was a great graphic you put together. Let's talk about the warmth. This is what I want to think about. Yeah. I like the 70-degree days. This is why a lot of us live here on the First Coast for the warmer weather. And so far in 2025, we've only had one. January 6th, we had a high of 75 degrees. I hope you enjoyed it. And this is for the first 2 weeks of January, the first 2 weeks of a year. And so from January 1st to 14th, we've only had one. But last year we had 5. In 2023, we had 9 days at or above 70 degrees. 5 days in 2022, 5 days in 2021, 11 days in 2020. And an interesting stat with that is in 2020, we had 5 days that were 80 plus degrees. So not just 70, but 80 plus degrees.
Right.
And this year we only have one.
I want 2020 back. Maybe not. I mean,
yeah, wait, hold on. 2020 was a chaotic
Wait a second.
year.
Oh my God. I didn't even think about it. No, I don't want. Never. You're right. No, you're right. Let's take 2020 and just leave it in 2020. But 5 days at 80 for the first 2 weeks of January. And then the rest of the month, I think there was like 3 or 4 more. I have the stat. It was eight total days in January we had that year, 2020, at 80 and above. Man,
for the first 2 weeks
warm
of
thoughts.
the year.
And then I'm looking at that at this year, 2025. We're 2 weeks in, 1 day at 75. And I use the 70 degree. I think you can kind of agree. If it's 70 out, your shorts and flip-flops in the sun. You know what I mean? It feels, it's a good warm, winter warm. You know, it's above average for the time of year. It's above seasonable. We kind of think about 70 as being pretty good. I can get out and play around to golf. But now I'm looking, so let's think about the forecast. So we've had one 70 degree day so far in the month of January in the year 2025. And I'm looking out at the 7-day Saturday.
I'll take Saturday, hopefully.
We're putting it on the board.
I don't like that rain coming in, though, with it.
The timing of the rain is going to be whether or not we hit 70. We're still fine-tuning. We're watching the computer models back, forth, speed up, slow down that line of showers. Again, picking up patterns. We know it is going to rain during a period of time, Saturday and Sunday. We can even probably bump those probabilities up even more with that 60 to 70% chance and coverage. But it's all about the timing. So we know we generally hit afternoon highs, 3, 4 o'clock. If we get to 3, 4 o'clock and we've got the sun, we haven't quite had the rain, we've still got those southerly winds, we might just hit that 70 degree spot. Now, if the rain starts a little earlier, we may be in the upper 60s, so we might may not have to adjust that graphic with the 70 degree days. And then we just have the edges of next week on our 7-day right now, but we start to see those 30s again. So the cold air reinforces.
So just some things to go over again, too,
Please.
when we were talking about looking back to 2020. The reason why we picked those years is because that's what we remember. You know,
Yeah,
we
it's
of
the
course
decade.
we have records all the way back to the 1800s.
Right.
There were some particularly cold years too. I think it was 85 was a very cold year as well.
89, we had the snow, right? Was that?
Yep, 89 was the snow. So we're talking about the recent years because it's fresh in our memory. So
Yeah.
yes, when you say, I think this has been a colder start to January than normal, or than what we remember and experience, that is true. And then just to wrap this up, Lou, let's talk about the snow one more time. That's why we jumped on the deep south winter storm on the way. Will we see flurries here? Will it snow here? You're saying there's a chance, but as last time when we talked, that chance is very, very, very low. You need everything to line up perfectly. As Lou said, you need to get that Yahtzee on the first roll. So
yeah, you have to. It's you make the second. By the time you've gotten Yahtzee on your second or third roll, well, then the low pressure has moved and the moisture is gone and the cold air moves in. You have to have it all stacked up. Timing is so critical. And again, we go back to the American model, wrapping this up. Low pattern, it seems to be pretty consistent coming out of the Gulf of Mexico by end of the week. What happens behind it? What happens within it? That is absolutely
It's
yet to
so
be determined.
far.
So just
And
read and look at social media posts from all the meteorologists and amateur weather enthusiasts at your peril, but at fun. It's fun to talk about. It's fun to discuss. But we all remember we are in Florida, and it takes a lot to line up to get any sort of wintry precip, let alone snow, Lee.
that's why as we said last time when we were talking about this 2 weeks ago, you can always drive to the mountains, in the Carolinas or
Maybe
North
not even
Georgia?
that far with this one. You can get up to Macon. I made the drive up through Orangeburg, South Carolina last weekend and saw some snow on the ground from that previous system. So that's only about 3 hours, 3-4 hours. You get on the road, take some of the back roads if you really want it. You can find it. For Lee, I'm Lou. She will be with you at noon if you want to watch the on-air broadcast or streaming on First Coast News Plus as well. In the meantime, y'all have a fantastic one. If you have any questions, hop in our social media channels, ask away, and we'll be happy to clear anything up. Y'all have a wonderful Wednesday.